Hey, it's Sam with forecast for the week of December 1st. First of all, the most important influences have to do with having 4 planets in Scorpio right now, and the ruler exalted. So the ruler of Scorpio, Mars, is exalted in Capricorn. It's also in an exchange with its ruler, Saturn. So we have Mars and Saturn in an exchange, and that's going to last for several months into around the end of February of 2015, because Mars is then going to also go into Aquarius. So when planets exchange, they hold together their indications. So it means that Mars and Saturn now, because they're in each other's sign, they will hold together those things that they indicate. Hold together not necessarily in an easy way, because these are 2 difficult planets. And usually when Mars and Saturn interact, Saturn gets the worst of it and Mars gets the best, because Saturn exalts Mars, but Mars debilitates Saturn. So Mars things are quite strong right now, which is about individuality, and having the courage to be disciplined and move through things, face our emotional shortcomings and vulnerabilities, which has to do with the Scorpio cycle that we're in right now. And like I said, especially now, all of those Scorpio themes are really magnified because we have Saturn in Scorpio, the Sun in Scorpio, Mercury and Venus also in Scorpio. And that's going to be for the rest, for the rest of this week, for most of the week, this will be the case. And we also have Jupiter aspecting all those planets in Scorpio, exalted Jupiter in Cancer. So again, right now, actually Jupiter is in his sign of exaltation, but he's pretty far away from the actual degree. Jupiter is exalted at 5 degrees Cancer, actually from 0 to 5 Cancer. And then after that, it's not really considered exalted anymore. And, some of the time you don't take that so seriously, but with Jupiter it's very important, because after 5 degrees Cancer, then Jupiter is not in, it's not really considered exalted, even though it's in its sign of exaltation. Jupiter is very far away from it. But he's still aspecting the sign of Scorpio. He's also aspecting Mars in Cancer, but at a pretty wide orb. But in particular, later this week on December 4th, which would be Thursday, Venus is going to hit that exact trine with Jupiter. So Venus themes have been pretty big for the last couple weeks, as well, as Venus has gone into Scorpio. So we've been really facing our insecurities and, going into a deeper sort of a devotional potential around relationships, because Venus has been in Scorpio, but also, as I say, facing our insecurities and fears. But that's going to get a great boost and a great sort of boon from God, you might say, and really be able to, reveal great insight and spiritual wisdom on December 4th, because Jupiter will give that almost exact aspect onto Venus. But again, this will really just be more of the Scorpio mix, because all of those planets, the Sun, Mercury, will also pass by and get this Jupiter trine within the next week or so. So look for, on Thursday, December 4th, look for your relationships to get a sort of, inspired shot in the arm as the Jupiter aspect, or as Venus hits that Jupiter aspect as well. But so, these qualities of Scorpio will continue. We just had the new moon in Scorpio a couple weeks ago, like a week and a half ago. And that set off this Scorpio cycle where we're learning to strengthen our fears and insecurities and weaknesses and transform them into strengths. That whole quality of, I talked about God as a divine friend, the ruling deity of Anuradha Nakshatra called Mitra is very important, and was very important on the new moon in Scorpio. So these qualities of devotion and seeing others through the eyes of a sort of godlike friendliness, and seeing and honoring the relationship we have with our friends, for instance, and seeing how different we are with our friends, and that sort of detachment, that sort of lack of desire and need that we have invested, like in our romantic partners and in other situations, even like with our family members, where we have all this charge and all this drama. Really honoring that quality of life has been very important for the last week or so. And again, we want to keep that theme in our mind this week with all those planets in Scorpio, to really have some more detachment from our desires and our needs and our insecurities around them. So, as I say, this really continues within the theme of the Mars-Saturn exchange. So again, you want to understand that when planets exchange, what happens, it's like living in each other's house. Literally, like each one of the planets own different territories. They own different signs. And when the planets occupy each other's signs, different things happen. They have different relationships with each other. But when they're mutually in the other one's sign, it's kind of like you living in someone's house and them also living in your house. And if there's friendship between the planets, like for instance, if you're living in the house of your friend and your friend is living in your house, then it's not so bad. But the planets have different relationships with each other. They're really different parts of ourself. When you say the planets, you're really talking about different forces within you. Mars and Saturn have a somewhat adversarial relationship just naturally. They have different purposes. Saturn is like the sort of old man, like Father Time, who has lived and who has a lot of experience and wants to learn from experience, not repeat the same mistakes, want to try to build structure and have a certain amount of control over external circumstances, because we know that we need to be safe and protected. These are all qualities of Saturn. Mars is really kind of like the instinctive animal within that wants to make us individually strong, individually powerful, wants to break through barriers, wants to destroy boundaries, wants to have the courage to assert our individuality against any kind of structure or oppressive entity or institution. And again, Saturn tends to represent institutions and things that are meant to control and contain things in a good way, and also in an oppressive way at times. So, but you can see there's a bit of a cross purpose here. But the reason Mars is exalted in Capricorn is because the qualities of Capricorn, and actually the qualities of Saturn, brings out the highest in Mars. Because the problem of Mars is we can be impulsive and not consider the consequences of our rash decisions, of our harsh actions. You can look, for example, at arguments that we have with people and how, it only takes one argument to destroy a relationship with someone, and we never forget that argument we had with someone. We always remember when we had an argument with someone, even if you get along with them for 10 years. One moment where you get irritated or you argue with them, and they'll remember it forever. You'll remember it forever. Think about it. It doesn't mean you won't ever like them again, but you'll always remember that. It's very easy to destroy a connection. And Mars is where we have to destroy something. So again, it's very important. Destruction's part of life. When Mars is in Capricorn, we carefully consider what we destroy. And again, Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, which has to do with learning from our mistakes, being strategic because we don't want to destroy something that we might want later. So when Mars is in Capricorn, we consider the consequences much more carefully. So you may find this right now in, maybe you're about to get in an argument with someone, maybe you're about to lash out angrily, but this relationship between Mars and Saturn right now has you wait and consider the consequences, and also connect to deeper sensitivity, hopefully, especially if this person has been someone who's been important to you, that you've loved, and maybe it didn't work out. Those planets in Scorpio may have you a little bit, painful, feeling painful in your heart, and maybe even jumping to conclusions and feeling jealous. But that exalted Mars in Capricorn is saying, but don't destroy this, because you might regret it later, or maybe they don't deserve it. And again, this is this whole Parivartana, this whole exchange between Mars and Saturn. So these are themes that are going to continue for this week. And, later in the week, the moon is going to be exalted in Taurus. So we have some good things coming up around the end of the week, and I'll do an update around that time as well. So I hope this was helpful for you. It's also December 1st. It's the beginning of the month, and I publish a forecast at the beginning of each month. If you haven't gotten it before, it's great. I talk about the Panchanga and the major Vedic astrology factors of each day, so you can check that out. Only 1 penny, you can get it for 2 weeks and see if it works for you. So thanks a lot. Have a great week.